Hello everybody and welcome to episode 6 of building an Imperial Refinery in LEGO. In today's episode, I get a good amount of progress done on the interior of the refinery, completing the entire first story, which is a little different than I had planned, but turned out really good and I'm very happy with all the progress I've made. On top of that, I made a couple of changes to previously finished areas, as well as a very small amount of progress on the pit and terrain. So, without further ado, let's get into all of the progress. Okay, so before moving on to the large area of progress, I want to mention a change to this lift wall, which is adding a nice big Imperial flag to the center. And if you did see last episode, I asked whether normal red or a dark red for the background of the flag would look better, and I got a few responses saying that the normal red would look better. So I am going to do normal red. Although I am very limited on pieces, I was able to make a second flag, and so I will not actually have a place for this until I get all the way up to the big platform, but I am glad I don't have to order any more red tiles for that. Moving on to the main progress of this episode, I'm going to start off with this hallway section here, which was planned to be a storage room full of Easter eggs. Now, that did not work out with the lift. I started to build it and realized that having a storage room right next to what would probably be the main entrance to this base, and not having too much else on this floor, might make it feel a little bit crowded and limit the imaginary size of this base quite a lot. So I decided to change it to a hallway, and I'm very glad I did because I am super happy with how this hallway turned out. Taking a closer look at the detail of this hallway, starting off with the floor, a pretty simple design of just black tiles and grills. The sections here are set half a plate down, while the grills along the wall are flush with the rest of the floor going along the entire base. This piece here, which is just to make the abrupt end of this hallway transition into the lift slightly better, is raised up half a plate. Now, moving into the walls, this is a fairly undetailed wall, and that is because these pillars, I really wanted to have them stand out, and that is because of the complicated design and all the time I put into them. I think they are really cool, so let's take a closer look at them. So this pillar design is made up of 3 different sections if you include the floor. Now I'm going to start with the wall section that includes the light bluish gray wedge plates. This section is the most complicated of the 3, and it is, as you can see, built up of a lot of these Technic bricks and brackets. Now, if I dissect this even further, you can see it is made up of a total of 6 separate pieces, 2 of which are the exact same other than using 2 1x2s on there instead of leaving them blank. And that is because the brick panels that are the wall run along this row of studs, and so the 1x2s are not needed on this bottom section. And since these are so similar, I will show you just how to build one. And it just uses simply some wedge plates, brackets, and a couple Technic bricks. And if you put the brackets in between the wedge plates, it creates a half a plate gap that, if you connect the 2 brackets using this Technic brick build, you can connect the two sides, creating a 1 brick thick wedge plate. And this is very convenient for this design, and I can see it being used in other builds as well. Now, moving on to the next sections, these are the wall sections. They are simply just a 5-plate thick, dark bluish gray wall section, and this is so that you get an even number of studs to fit the pillar into. And these are very simple builds. They just are bricks, plates, and tiles. And on this one, I have put a small bracket to connect the support where it connects to the base plate. Now, the last two sections are very simple, just using a 2x2 tile and a bracket, and these slip into this space here, filling a very weird gap that is created because of the size of these brackets. So, if I put it all together, you can see that it all fits together very easily and smoothly. Moving to the simple part of the pillar, the dark bluish gray strip is simply just a stack of 1x2s with one of these sloped grills on top and a hinge at the bottom connected to this contraption here, which allows it to connect one stud back from this grill that is raised up one plate from this. It is technically one tile down or one plate down from wherever your surface floor level is, and that allows it to intersect the floor perfectly and allows the wall to line up almost perfectly. There is a very slight gap there, but it is almost unnoticeable unless you look at it from that angle. Now moving on to the diagonal wall, which has changed since you saw it in last episode. I changed it from being a 45-degree angle to a much easier to work with 30-degree angle using cheese slopes. The first reason for this is just because this was an easier intersection on both sides actually, and also because with the 45-degree angle, the door would go straight into that wall if it were centered, and that was a big problem because a door leading straight into a wall doesn't work. So I decided to change the angle up, and this is actually still unfinished, and that is why it is currently not connected to anything. And that is because I still need to add some detail up in this corner, as well as figure out a way to attach the door on the inside. Taking a look at the other side of the door, you can see it's almost just as blank, but since this room is a lot more enclosed and will have a lot of other details on the walls and a lot more crates along the pathway, I have decided to leave it a little less detailed, and that I think is going to be a good decision. Now, starting with the left wall of this room, you can see there's this big red pipe that runs along the top of the wall, and then some more of the iconic Imperial light panels. There is also one back there on that wall. And then there was one of my favorite parts of this mock, and that is really just because of one reason, and it is that. They light up, and I think they look super cool, especially with the lights off, but I will have to wait and show you that once I finish showing you all the other stuff in this room. Starting off with these little railings, using the caution tile to make a little bit of an extra warning and railing type thing, as well as some grills in front of those in case of spills. with the vat removed, you can see all the details that I put into these little tiny bottom pieces that will never be seen, including integrating a pipe into the floor as well as a little kind of dial that tells you the pressure or whatnot. And the only problem with this design is that this front little wall piece is just loose, and I tried to figure out a way to connect it and failed, so I'm just going to place it on the floor. Now, what I did not mention previously is that this vat design is different from what I was mentioning last episode. I will throw both up on screen now. You can see the one I was going to use is a lot more of a cone shape, and I decided that in a 6x6 area, that would be practically impossible to pull off, compared to the version on the right, which is what I went with. And I think with the lights integrated into this version, they look much better than the cone would ever have. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for. As you can see with the overhead lights off, this section looks absolutely amazing lit up with these lights. Especially the vats. It actually is a rare instance where it looks better on camera than in person, and I just love how this turned out, especially with those 1x chain links that just make that glow have little lines in it and make it just feel a little more accurate. Moving on to the second light, which is the one in the ceiling above the door. This is a really cool light, and I think it just helps light up the room a lot. Although it is very bright looking straight at it, I think as long as I don't get a camera angle like that, it should be fine. And I built it just using two 1x2 plates with the light in between. And I think that works perfectly to get an even spread of the light with just the trans-clear pieces. Now, the problematic light is this one right here. I had to put it on a dimmer control board, and this is currently the lowest setting. You can see if I turn it up, it is very hard to see anything other than that. It's very blinding, and so I have to change that light. Hopefully by next episode I can figure out a solution to that problem. Anyways, if we turn the lights back on, we can take a look at the final bit of progress of this episode, which is all of the supports for the rim pieces for the pit. And I have also collected up all of the parts needed that I have, and that allowed me to figure out what I did need, which was just a few different bracket pieces, some 1x6s, and a few ball joints, which was really nice to see. I did not need to order a ton of pieces. Sadly, I have still not figured out a design for the outer wall of the pit, but hopefully I can get that designed by next episode, so I can order the pieces needed for those, along with the pieces I need for all of these rim panels. Okay everybody, so that is going to wrap up episode 6 of building an Imperial Refinery in LEGO. I'm really happy with the progress I was able to make this episode, and although I would love to keep working on the interior of the base, next episode I will be shifting my focus to the terrain as well as some work on the pit. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider liking this video and subscribing with notifications on so you don't miss the next episodes of building an Imperial Refinery in LEGO. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. See you in episode 7 of building an Imperial Refinery in LEGO.